After a long wait, it's finally here. The new impact wrench from Parkside is just arrived, so let's unbox it and see what all the hype's about. While I struggle with opening this box, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like if you enjoy the content. And let me know in the comments what you think of this tool. And finally, there it is. I've had to wait years for Parkside to release a tool like this. I just hope it was worth the wait. So, this is the brand new first generation brushless impact wrench, model PPDSSA A1 20. I got it for €50, delivery included. It comes as a bare tool, so there's no battery or charger in the box. However, you do get a set of 3 wheel bolt sockets. Parkside recommends using the 8-amp battery for this, so that's how I'll be testing it in this video. As you can see, the tool is brand new. Fresh from Kaufland, so whatever happens next, we both know it's never been opened. Fingers crossed it doesn't blow up or anything. First impression, it looks great. Maybe a bit bigger than I expected, but I'm hoping that means better build quality and more power. The tool itself is basically a bigger version of the Parkside Performance impact driver. A bit bulkier and a bit heavier, weighing around 1.2 kilos. What worries me though is adding another kilo by going with the 8-amp battery. But apart from that, I'm surprised by how good it looks right out of the box, especially considering it's made by Grizzly Tools. Most of their products, I bought anyway, tend to have some marks on them, but this one's looking pretty solid. Speaking of that 8-amp battery, I can tell you right away that you can definitely feel the weight. There's no way around it. With the recommended battery, it weighs a bit over 2 kilos, so it's not exactly the most compact tool out there. And it is bottom heavy, but I guess that's not a huge issue for a tool like this. And don't worry, this isn't just a review and test video, we're also going to modify this with a combination anvil. Now let's talk about the modes on this, because it can get a bit complicated. The tool has 4 modes. Mode 1 gives you up to 120 Nm. Mode 2 goes up to 400 Nm. Then there's Mode A for precise tightening and loosening of nuts and bolts, and Mode B for use with wood. I know you're probably wondering why this review took so long to make, but I just needed like a week to read through the instructions. On top of all that, you can also connect the tool to the Parkside app, which I'm not really a fan of for a few reasons. But I know you're curious about the expert mode, so I gave it a go. And if all of that wasn't enough, there's an extra button on the tool, and as far as I can tell, its only job is to control the LED light. What a time to be alive! Just a couple of final notes before we jump into testing. These are the 3 wheel sockets that came with the tool, 17, 19 and 21 mm. And here are my own Parkside wheel sockets. Now let me show you something very interesting. The included ones don't seem to be chromoly like the ones I bought separately. Or at least there's nothing stamped on them to say so. I'm not saying they won't work, I'm just pointing it out. It might be worth investing in better sockets down the line, but for €50, can I really complain? Absolutely not. Alright, for the first round of testing, we've got quite the lineup. First, the new tool with an 8-amp battery, then in the middle, a light but powerful contender, an impact driver which I modified into an impact wrench. And finally, we've got the 12-volt Parkside Performance impact wrench, which even with the largest 12-volt battery is still the lightest tool in this group. Place your bets in the comments. The first round of testing will represent a very common use case for these tools, which is removing wheel bolts. I've set my torque adapter to 150 Nm, and each impact wrench will be timed on 3 wheel bolts. These old wheels and bolts should provide a decent challenge. 150 Nm can feel very different on new bolts compared to old, worn-out ones. First up is the 12-volt impact wrench, running with a fully charged 5-amp battery and set to its maximum power, which is Mode 4. Now to reset the bolts to 150 Nm, and next up is the modified impact driver. It's running a fully charged 4-amp battery and is set to its highest power mode. This thing has never let me down, unlike the 12-volt impact wrench, and I'm really hoping today isn't the first time. Once again, the bolts are torqued back up to 150 Nm, and it's time to see the new tool in action. I'm running it with the recommended 8 amp battery, and it's currently set to mode 2. I am expecting a solid performance here. Let's see how it does. I mean, I can't say that was impressive. It wasn't bad, just not quite what I was expecting, especially after reading that 600 Newton meter torque claim on the box. But maybe there's a way to get more out of it. From what I understand in the manual, I should switch to mode A, and then I can boost performance further by activating expert mode. I might be wrong, I'm not an IT specialist, but let's give it a shot. Okay, so expert mode did improve the performance, but in the end the results were about the same as my modified impact driver. And that one was running on a battery half the size. I wouldn't go so far as calling the new tool a disappointment, but so far it does feel a bit overly complicated and maybe just a bit underpowered compared to what I was expecting. Now let's move on to some higher power demands. Specifically these M20 nuts, which will be torqued down to 200, 270 and 340 Newton meters. The nuts are brand new, so this is a best case scenario. The kind of clean, ideal conditions these tools will almost never face out in the real world. Let's get the ball rolling with the new tool, just as you saw it last. Still running the 8 amp battery and still set to expert mode. Well, that was easy. Now let's see how it performs if you're not an IT specialist and you just want to use your tool out of the box. No app, no expert mode. Now let's see how its arch nemesis performs, the modified impact driver, this time with an 8 amp battery of its own. It has managed to hold its own so far, likely thanks to its higher RPMs. But now it's time to see how it does when it comes to raw power. Well, even I was surprised at how well it did. And finally, the tool that's let me down more than once when I really needed some power. The 12-volt impact wrench. It's running a full 5 amp battery and it's set to mode 4. Let's see how it holds up. So, the 12-volt impact wrench actually performs well. Well, as long as the conditions are ideal. But what's even more surprising is how close the new impact wrench and the modified impact driver are in terms of performance. But let's be honest though, the 12-volt might look good in testing, but the real world has not been kind to it. It's let me down before, so for me, it's out of the running. This really comes down to these two. But before we get into the final verdict, there's still one question left to answer. What if you want to seamlessly transition from changing your wheels to some other impactful jobs? Can this new tool handle that? And what I mean by that is, how easy is it to do an Anvil modification on this tool? Well, let's find out, shall we? Step 1. Obviously, get the tool. Then take it apart. Then take it apart some more. And just when you think you're done, surprise, you've got to take it apart even more. At this point, a few screws have been lost to the void forever, but the tool is finally just about ready for the Anvil mod. But before we move on with the Anvil modification, let's take a quick look inside. And right away, what catches my eye is the control board. It's completely encased in plastic, and there's no visible metal for heat dissipation anywhere in the tool. I get that it's built to a budget, but maybe instead of all the gimmicky mode settings, they could have focused on something more practical, like for example, better internal heat management. But why am I even surprised? Anyway, once you remove the front casing, the Anvil pops right out. And replacing it is actually very straightforward at this point. It is just a simple swap, with no need to replace the bushing. So here's the original Anvil, and here's the new one that we will be installing. I will make sure to leave a link to it down in the description, of course. Now, it's not a perfect fit, unfortunately. Most of the dimensions are spot on, but you will need to remove a bit of material from the base of the new Anvil and round out the edges. Basically, just match the size and shape of the original Anvil and you will be good to go. It is a bit longer than the original Anvil, but nothing too extreme. Now make sure to grease everything up and put it back together. And here it is, the end result of the Anvil swap. And now we've got a tool with an Anvil that can handle both 1/4 inch hex bits and 1/2 inch sockets. I'm not sure how many of you will actually need this, but I think it's good to know that the option is out there. Now, with all that out of the way, let's talk about the final verdict. First off, even though I didn't show it in the video, you can use this tool with a 4 amp battery. It still works pretty well, just a bit down on power. But if that's all you've got, it's still good enough for removing wheel bolts. It definitely has more power than the brushed green versions. I do think that on its best day it can hit that 600 Nm mark, but not consistently. Its mode 2 is rated at 400 Nm, but to me it feels like it pushes just a bit beyond that. The thing is, the modified impact driver feels the same way, and it manages that while being smaller and lighter. In fact, when paired with a 4 amp battery, the impact driver actually feels better in the hand. It is more nimble, faster thanks to its higher RPMs, and it just seems to work more efficiently with the lighter battery. So, if you already have one of these converted impact drivers and were also considering purchasing one of these new impact wrenches, honestly, there's not much to gain. On the other hand, if you're just looking for a brushless impact wrench on a budget, I think this is a solid option. My only concern is the electronics. I'm not a specialist, but they don't exactly inspire confidence. As for me, my choice is clear. The new tool might have a bit more power, but I'd personally stick with my converted impact driver for lighter tasks. And I'd go with this beast for heavy duty stuff, because I know for a fact there's nothing in a car this thing won't handle. And if you're interested, this exact model is back on sale at Lidl Germany. €99 as a full kit with a battery, charger and sockets. You can find more details in my linked videos. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video and I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments below.